Ralph Breaks the Internet has one of the longest end credits I've ever witnessed, but it's worth to wait. Trust me. Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and Ralph Breaks the Internet is the latest Disney animated movie. It's the sequel to 2012's Wreck-It Ralph and it was directed by Phil Johnson and Rich Moore. The first film is probably the best video game adaptation that wasn't actually based on a video game. It's the Toy Story for gaming and it created this wonderful little world of the inside of an arcade. Our two main protagonists were Ralph and Vanellope. Ralph is this big guy who's the villain in the fictitious video game Fix-It Felix. But at his heart he's really a gentle and sensible fella who wants to be friends. And Vanellope, or Vanellope von Schwyz, is this young troublemaking glitch character from the racing game Sugar Rush, which is the film's version of Super Mario Kart. I guess everybody has seen the film, so I'll leave it at that. If not, it's really good. Now 6 years have passed since it came out, and 6 years have passed in the world of the movie as well. Not much has happened, and most days are pretty much the same, which is exactly what some people love and need, but also what others might find boring and not fulfilling. For Ralph, this is perfect and he loves spending his time with his best friend in the world, Vanellope. But she begins to want more, not just race the same old tracks every day again and again. When Ralph tries to surprise her with a new addition to her game, the game's actual steering wheel in the arcade breaks and her and the game's other residents' livelihoods are threatened. Lucky for them that the arcade just got access to this new and exciting and endless possibility providing thing called the internet. And so our new adventure can begin. This conflict of perceptions, what is a happy and fulfilling life, different ideas, different dreams of the future. It's very subtle in the beginning, but it's what the movie is coming back to later on, and it's a good sign of a good film when everything is coming together on a thematic and narrative level. And this is what ultimately really saved the film for me. Ralph Breaks the Internet is a good, fun and emotional animated movie. Of course the animation itself is marvelous to look at, the voice acting by John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman is on point, and there are a lot of neat and creative ideas in it. But it also started rather lackluster for me. The first few jokes didn't really hit because they felt rather cheap and shallow, including loud burping in a bar scene. And when we enter this big new world of the internet, I still wasn't completely on board. I think a part of that might be this extra level of reservations that comes with the territory. Many of the film's plays on the internet are quite predictable and again cheap. One of Ralph and Vanellope's first stops is eBay, and the film didn't really surprise me with anything new, fun and creative that I haven't thought about myself. It wasn't that it wasn't funny, it just wasn't really fresh. And this goes for the whole internet angle in general. It's 2018 and it has been around for a few days, but when you keep in mind that Ralph himself is a character from a different time period, from a gaming world that's retro, the film's belatedness when it comes to its setting is forgivable. To accept the blatant product placements was another obstacle to overcome, but I don't think it's really a flaw of the movie. It's really weird to directly deal with things like IMDb, eBay, YouTube or Twitter in a film like this, and one always wonders if, and if so, how much a company has paid to be featured in it. But would it really be better to come up with fake lookalike platforms? Those brands, apps and homepages are so ingrained in our modern world that it might just be best to call it by their names. And how Ralph Breaks the Internet actually brings the internet to life is rather delightful and sweet. From the way the user has been directed from one place to the next, how a search bar is aggressively guessing what you're looking for, to the all-determining algorithm of a video platform like YouTube and the currency system of likes, and also the toxic nature of the comment section, which will ring even truer to everybody out there who's also creating content in any form. Again, many of those depictions aren't that super creative, but the world as a whole is intriguing and fun enough. Since gaming is a big part of the Wreck-It Ralph DNA, they add another game as an integral part of the sequel as well. I was always a little bit disappointed that the first film spent such a big amount of time in just one game. In the sequel they introduce Slaughter Race, for which the old game series Twisted Metal might have been an influence. The time we spend with that game is Far less, but it's also not a throwaway scene because its importance for the film's narrative and emotional core gets very clear in the second half. The whole film can roughly be divided into 2 segments. In the first, the main driving force is to find a way to get a new steering wheel for Sugar Rush. And in the second, the much more personal, emotional conflict between these 2 friends and their different needs is brought to the foreground. This is what appealed a lot more to me, and Disney really succeeds in delivering that emotional punch, and because Ralph Breaks the Internet is a good film, all those motifs were already planted in the first half as well. Luckily, it's not just a succession of funny bits about the internet, and though I criticize the film's mostly rather easy riff on it, there's also a ton of great stuff. For example, a disgusting worm that's selling hacker tools, or an incredibly meta take on the whole Disney princesses formula. That sequence alone is worth the price for admission. It's also always interesting when a movie like this can get away with the fact that there's no real villain. I mean, I love great villains, and Disney villains are a thing in itself, but it's nice when a movie does something a little bit different and creates a strong enough narrative force just from the conflict between our 2 protagonists. Maybe this was a little bit weak for me in the first half and the reason why it took me a while to get warm with the film, but in the second half it delivers. So in German I'd say, Ralph Breaks the Internet, oder wie er bei uns heißt, Chaos im Netz, ist eine tolle Fortsetzung, dessen Humor und Anspielungen zwar nicht immer super frisch sind, die dafür aber mit sehr viel Herz punkten kann und darüber hinaus äußerst meta ist. I give Ralph Breaks the Internet 7 out of 10. It's more like 7.4, but I don't do that.
You're not wrong.
Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Ralph Breaks the Internet. And also, which one do you like better, the first one or the second? You can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram simply at TheJimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.